Now, what about the middle class, as we call ourselves, right? There's a great piece at Town Hall by Matt Vespa, and he points out an op-ed in Inside Sources. You will be told that the tax plan only taxes the wealthy. Untrue. Corporations do not ultimately pay taxes. They collect them. Their promise won't include intergenerational transfers of property and assets like houses, family businesses, family farms, and stocks. In other words, they're going to massively increase the so-called death tax. So if you've developed a small business that's worth over $3.5 million, it doesn't mean you make $3.5 million every year. Maybe you make $100,000 or $200,000. We have friends here who just sold their restaurant. I don't know what they sold it for, but they were eking out a living. So they'll get a payday when they sell their restaurant, having put years and years of sweat and toil into this thing. And so when they sell it, the government steps in, despite having paid federal income taxes, business taxes, God knows what else. The federal government steps in and says, okay, you're making over a certain amount, you're a multimillionaire, we'll take 40%, thank you. What? And what are they going to do with that 40%? May I use this phrase? Piss it away, like they always do. Meet stepped-up basis. This is critical. This will affect each and every one of you listening to me. So you're a 60-year-old, almost retiree, who is a 90-year-old parent who just passed away. You were bequeathed their Florida home, acquired in 1980 for $100,000. Its value is now $500,000. Does that sound familiar to any of you? It doesn't have to be Florida, but you get the point. Hopefully, it won't be complicated by a reverse mortgage or isn't burned by other forms of leveraged debt. Why? Let's say you sell that house for $500,000. Thanks to the stepped-up basis, it's called, you should owe no federal capital gains tax on the sale. None. Okay? Because you're not paying for the stepped-up $100,000 to $500,000. You didn't have it then. So you're being bequeathed a $500,000 home, not a $100,000 home from 20 or 30 years ago. But what happened if all this happens after Democrats eliminate the so-called loophole? You will owe capital gains tax on the gain in value since the property was purchased 41 years ago. Do you understand? You're going to pay now a capital gains tax on the difference between $100,000 and $500,000, even though you personally inherited a $500,000 home. Where are you going to get that money to pay a capital gains tax on that $400,000? You're not going to get it. You're going to lose that inheritance. You're going to have to give up that home. So that bequeath becomes an enormous burden to you. So this is a direct attack on the middle class. What is it an attack on? Property ownership. American Marxism. This is a direct attack on property ownership. So that's a 20% likely tax hit on the gain of $400,000. That's $80,000 you're going to have to come up with. For people with incomes over $1 million, Biden may raise capital gains taxes to match the highest personal income tax, 39.5%. So let's say you've retired and you have $1 million. $1 million. Well, let's say you have an income of $1 million. That's what they say, an income of $1 million. And let's say you inherit a home. Your parents bought a home for $300,000 20 years ago. Now it's worth $1 million. And you're making $1 million a year. And by the way, when you're making $1 million a year, you get to keep half. It's not like you're keeping $1 million a year. Depending on the state, you could be paying a significant state income tax, a federal income tax. Some locals have local income taxes. So you're paying taxes on the money. It's not like, oh, wow, I have $1 million a year. It's general income of $1 million a year, not your net income. So it's $1 million a year. Your parents bought a home for $300,000. Say 20 years ago. Let's say, just to keep it simple, you're the sole child. They pass away, you get the home, and it's now worth $1 million. That's not hard in this day for a home to be worth $1 million. And by the way, you don't even have a lot of say on that. Who does? Your local assessor. And they come in and they jack up the price of these houses and the value of these houses. Why? Because they want taxes. That's why. And well, we appraised this at $1 million. I can't sell this for $1 million. Well, we appraised it at $1 million. You know, you can appeal. You know, you're trying to live your life. It's not so simple to deal with the bureaucracy. So let's say they buy for $300,000 and it's $1 million. And now you've earned $1 million. You're going to pay 40% on the difference between $300,000 and $1 million on that house. 40%. Where are you going to come up with that money? People aren't so liquid. They don't have money sitting in their checking accounts and their savings accounts. And this is what's in his proposal. Isn't it amazing to you that there's not a single network program that I'm aware of that even discusses how this affects you? Because if everybody like you and you and you back there, if you knew this, there'd be a revolt against this plan, wouldn't there? I would think so. The Biden plan may exempt the first $1 million of unrealized gain, but that's a shallow threshold for many family businesses and farms. Okay. You own a farm, a family farm, and you work it for 30, 40 years, and you die, you leave it to your kids. And the family farm is worth far more than it was worth when you were alive, because you're working it every day. So the assessors come in and they put a value on the property. And what happens? They're going to have to sell that farm. You just don't grow enough food or raise enough cattle or whatever to pay the taxes on that farm. So this is an attack on the middle class. And if you understand Marxism, if you understand the Democrat Party, they want you to follow the shiny object of the super rich, who they're going to hammer. And the super rich will figure out a way to deal with it. Some will, some won't, but most will. And they'll have their buddies in Congress and in the White House who they supported for election this cycle and previous cycles. And they'll work their deals if they can. But if you're a working person, you have a farm, you have a ranch, maybe you have a couple homes, maybe you've managed to live the American dream. In other words, most of the people in what we call the middle class, you're going to get killed. You're going to get killed on the big items. And that's what you're not being told. Because you cannot destroy the existing system and replace it with another system without going after the masses of the people. You got to go after the people. Who are the people who suffer under Marxism? Who are the people who suffer in Europe under socialized healthcare and so on? It's the broad base of the population. Who are the people who suffer in Canada because of national government-run healthcare? It's the broad number of people who pay a massive amount into that system. They can't just fly off to the United States, to one of the great hospitals and pay out of their pocket, which is what a lot of wealthy Canadians do. It's you. You suffer under this.
For more, sign up for Levin TV.